Hello and welcome back to Jijo Speaks. I want to address a question. The question that I saw in the comment, which said that journals, RC passage from journals, that seems to be very difficult to handle, sir. What do I do? And I thought I'll do a video on that. RCs from journal, that's a topic. And I want to address three things. First of all, what are the sources? Do they even give you RCs from journal? And second of all, if you know the sources, should we care? And third, if at all we have to care, what about RC from journal? What do we do on that? So those are the three questions that I'm going to answer. I will not be solving any passages in this particular video. I'll tell you why as well. Right? So let's start with answering question number one. What are the RC sources? I did a video on what we can expect in CAT 2023, and there I did a whole bunch of things about the past CAT papers, and one of the things that I discussed was RC sources. So I'll sort of revisit that. Now, the passages can be taken from anywhere. It could be a website article. So you can think about, for example, I don't know, The Guardian, The New York Times, The Wall Street Journal, and so on and so forth. Or it can be picked from some essays. You can think about Aeon essays, maybe. That could be a site from where articles can be picked up, or similar sites to Aeon essays. Third could be encyclopedia. Well, could be. Fourth is book extracts. I mean, there are a lot of books written by a lot of people, and CAT can just pick up one passage from some book. And finally, it could be our favorite journals. Now, if I go back and look at the CAT from 2020, slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, all the way to 2022, slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, we find that these are all articles. All the things in green are articles. From the Atlantic, the Spectator, the Guardian, the New York Times, Financial Times, the New York Times, Nepali Times, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. So, you've got articles. And what you typically find in articles, these are all Videsi articles. Right? Just because you see a lot of New York Times does not mean that, sir, New York Times, not CAT favorite. I cannot say that in 2021, lot of New York Times. I'm going to read New York Times daily, okay? I will read everything in New York Times. There's no New York Times in 2022. It could be anything. It could be from some of the sources. And then you have got these essays picked up from Aeon essays. Again, people say, sir, Aeon essays, every time. CAT picks from Aeon essays. Yes, once in a while. I mean, yeah. CAT 2020 didn't have anything. 2023 may have, may not have. Smithsonian Magazine. I mean, Smithsonian Magazine, typically, probably you can talk about a website article, but I put in an essay because of a different reason, I'll tell you. A New Scientist, Scientific American. I mean, so this New Scientist and Scientific American, you can treat it as an article, but I'll tell you why I kept it as essay. And then there are books. I mean, the books could be Anarchism by Colin Watt, The Sacred Gaze by Dave Morgan, The On Writing by Stephen King, Humankind, A Hopeful History by Roger Bregman, Dystopia by Gregory Clay, Scandalous Knowledge by Barbara Smith, Empire and Nation by Partha Chatterjee, Million Years of Music by Gary Tomlinson, Penguin History of Early India by Romila Thapar, Out of Control, Kevin Kelly. If you know this information, are you going to tell me, sir, I'm going to read some books now? Which book will you read? I mean, you can read anything. You can't go, I'm going to read for the CAT, okay? No. And I'm sure that any of these books, I don't know whether you've read even one. I'm thinking, for example, this book, Dystopia by Gregory Clay. I don't know whether you actually buy books to read books, whether you go to Amazon and buy books. I don't know whether you actually visit a bookstore. Maybe before catching a flight, you can see some bookstores in the airport. You went and entered the bookstore and you went, okay, I saw the book, Dystopia. I'm going to read this book. I like this book. No, we don't do that. And it could be encyclopedias. There are a lot of encyclopedias. What else? Blackwell Encyclopedia of Sociology, Encyclopedia of Human Geography, Encyclopedia of Emotions, Encyclopedia of Undate, Sage Handbook of Philosophy of Social Sciences. And then we have journals. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, yes, CAT is going to pick up passages from whatever the sources. Unfortunately, we won't know anything. I mean, while writing the CAT is not like CAT is going to tell you, I'll tell you what this passage one is from. This is from Aeon essay, okay? I'll also tell you the topic. I will give you some information on author. Nothing, won't find anything. You're just going to see a passage, you're going to read the passage. All right, but you'll say, but should we care? I mean, for example, if I look at whom think about the author and think about the audience. When we look at website articles, you can think about an author. The author is writing the article for general audience mostly, and I'm sure that there could be certain articles written for a specific kind of audience. For example, Wall Street Journal could be for an audience who is interested in probably finance, but still it's for the general audience. The author who is creating this website article is like, I want more likes, subscribe, share, please. I think that would be the intention of the particular author to spread across something, some ideas, share that information, whatever the author wants to share, or maybe a view or analysis or an argument to the public, and probably make them more informed or change their views or whatever is the reason. And then we have second one is essays. Like an essay, here we have got an author who is probably slightly thinking of it. That could be a bad emoji, but it would be a specialist. The author is likely to be a specialist. I'm not saying website articles are not written by specialists, but yes, author would be a specialist on a particular subject, and then giving that perspective to a general audience. That will be the second one. And there could be encyclopedias. I don't know whether you have encyclopedias at home. Usually we have encyclopedia. Purpose of encyclopedias to have a reference for general audience again. Now I'm sure that there are encyclopedias which is for specific audience. For example, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. I think to read it, you need to have some understanding of philosophy. Otherwise, you'll go bouncer completely. I've tried it. I've read some of these. It bounces. But then there are encyclopedia which is for general public. Also, the encyclopedia, and there could be a book. Book actually depends. I mean, there are a lot of books written by a lot of authors on a lot of subjects. Some could be for a general audience. Some could be a specific audience. Some could be anything. It depends. And then finally, we have our journals from the specialist for the specialist. I don't think that journals are written for Aam Janda like you and me. I think the journals are written because somebody said, you guys have studied so much. But wait a minute. I have done a new study, okay? A new finding. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Let me know, please. Please review it and give me something. You can quote it if you want. That will be journal for a particular purpose. I don't think journals are used for general audience. Therefore, you could then say, sir, so therefore, the website article is supposedly be simple and straightforward. I don't know whether it is clear, visible. Hopefully, you can read this. It's likely going to be simple, straightforward, because if general audience has to read it and understand it, it has to be language has to be simple for the audience to read. But then you can sometimes find authors will write the way the author wants to write. An essay, since it is an essay from a specialist, it wants to go beyond just a straightforward explanation. They want to get into in-depth. They will force you to have some critical thinking. And I'm sure that when you're reading articles like in the Aeon essays, you're going, sir, what is this? So what is 4,000 words? Half the words I don't know what I get lost. Should we really read Aeon essays? Is it okay if I don't read? Please tell me no, sir. Please. I mean, this happens. And in encyclopedia, it will be informative, likely to be straightforward. The encyclopedia is written for general audience. The book, it depends. I mean, it's depend upon what purpose of the book is. When it comes to journal, it's going to have complex language jargons because it is written by specialists for the specialist. But irrespective of whatever is the story, please do understand, at the end of the day, cat is picking 500 words. If you can't read what is written here, let me write once again, 500 words. Right? For example, the articles of Aeon essays may be 4,000 words. From the 4,000 words, about 500 words is taken. Now, if you typically look at these essays are structured into different sort of segments. Though a topic is not mentioned, is clearly segmentized in various segments, and cat might then decide, maybe I'll pick one particular segment, or maybe a collection of segments, edit some things out and give it to you. If it's a website article, the same story. Now maybe the article maybe can have 600 words, can have 1,000 words, can be 2,000 words, edit and give it to you. Encyclopedia will have, one particular encyclopedia is going to have thousands of topics. One topic may have different components, or maybe a small one, but then a 500 words is extracted and given to you. A book is actually a long form. Lot of things on one topic is mentioned thoroughly in the entire book. But when it comes to the passage, it's only that 500 words that is going to come to you. Now, it might be a multiple chapters. Whatever is that taken, that will be complete in itself, that's the likelihood. From journal, some part is going to be given to you. Now, once it is cut down to about 500 words of stuff, technically speaking, is no longer an essay. I mean, it no longer becomes a book, because big book was 1,000 pages. It no longer is an encyclopedia. It no longer is an article. It no longer is a journal. Now, the purpose of whatever the journal original purpose was of using for the specialist is no longer exist. This purpose is lost. Why? Because I'm only picking up what 500 words from it. I mean, this entire original purpose intended by the book is lost, because I'm picking only 500 words with it. And whole purpose of having the encyclopedia is lost. Everything is lost. At the end of the day, all these passages are one and the same. I mean, how does it matter what passage? It's just a passage that is in front of you. You might then say that, sir, but wait a minute. So there will be jargons, okay? So it's saying that something will be dense. I'm sure that you can find passages which are dense in passages which are dense in any of these. So topic will be very, very different, sir. I mean, you can find topic which you don't know in any of these, right? So at the end of the day, I don't think you should be bothered too much about the fact that there is going to be website, there is going to be article. Yes, the only thing that you have to do is that I should read diversely. That is the most organic way of improving your skills, right? On a daily basis, you have to read as many different articles as you can, and it's likely going to make sense if you say, since you know that these are the sort of likely sort of places where you can find articles, you can pick them up and read. But that does not mean that I will not recommend you to pick up a complete journal and read a whole journal for the cat. Doesn't make sense. One of the reasons as to why people do recommend reading A1 essays is that the way in which the article is treated is sort of in depth. So that kind of covers not many of the things that is likely to going to happen in many of these things. So reading sort of an article which is dealt something on in-depth level and forcing your critical thinking skills, so that will be a good thing to do, and therefore recommending people to read A1 essays still makes sense. And you reading A1 essays on a daily basis makes sense. It is not because CAT gives A1 essays the passage, because the way in which those articles are written is good. It is in depth, so that's something that makes sense. And coming to at the end of the day, so sir, at the end of the day, what about journals? And what about journals? If you look at a typical journal, the journal will have a journal entry will have all these components. It will have some sort of a title. There will be an abstract. There will be an introduction. There will be a literature review. There will be methodology, then the results and finding, discussions and analysis, conclusion, reference of bibliography. That's how a journal entry is. Now, so if you look at this, title would not be a clickbait. Title will be a clear description that is given to you. An abstract will be a brief summary, usually one paragraph, and at least one paragraph. Gives you a summary of why the survey was done and what was the methodology used and what is the typical finding that we got on just an abstract. And abstract is what you normally see. People read the abstract and they then decide whether I want to read the entire journal or not. So abstract is well written, sort of one summary in terms of give the complete story in a brief one paragraph. Then this is where the journal starts with an introduction, complete background of it, the purpose of the journal, what is the research question. And typically all the journals will have a literature review. We'll look at the previous studies that on this particular subject. And sometimes there might not be any new study. It can jump from literature review to conclusion. But then there will be researchers who have done extra bit of research. So they have created a methodology. They will talk about, they have already done the research. Now it's telling the world what the research is. So it talks about how it was done, the details, the data, all that is mentioned. And then comes the results and then puts the results and finding. A lot of data interpretation will happen, charts and tables. And then based on the findings, certain interpretation, analysis. And then ends with a conclusion, which is summary and maybe implication, limitations of the study and so on and so forth. And what could be a future study. And then references and bibliography and sources. Now, if you think about you as a question setter, and want to pick up 500 words, where will you pick it from? And I'm sure that you can't get 500 words in the title, nor you can get in the abstract. I mean, this method and methodology research finding is all about data interpretation and stuff, but why would you pick that from there? You're not going to pick from reference or bibliography. What is left? You're left by picking from either introduction or literature review, previous studies. So what is the story so far, right? So you can see a lot of essays that you see what is the story so far, or maybe analysis, a bit of a combination of these two things. So therefore, net, when I say journals, right, and journal entries, even though the journals are written for the peers, the crux of the journals and what makes journals so painful, that you don't find in the CAT. True, what may so happen is that these are topics that you may not have come across, a treatment of the topic that you may not have come across. There could be a lot of jargons, terms that is thrown at us. That is all true, but that is no different from anything else that you're going to get. So I, at this point in time, or you at this point in time, should not actually worry about a specific source that the CAT is going to give to you, right? Just don't bother worry about the source, because what we know is it's going to be of 500 words, right? But then you've got sort of other worries. So what if it's dense? What if it's that? What if it's this? And what if it's that? So let's just understand something very, very simply and clearly. Now, what is the purpose? Now, imagine if I were a CAT, I'm a CAT authority, right? Or for the matter, any test. It could be GRE, GMAT. Do I expect you to have prior knowledge on these subjects? That you should know about existentialism, you should know about the idea of cubism, you should know about quantum physics, you should know about whatever, do ethnographic studies. Am I expecting you to have prior knowledge? If I'm expecting you to have prior knowledge, I should tell you in the beginning, no? In the beginning, this is what you should study. You should study social sciences and come. No. Am I looking at giving a passage on a topic that you likely don't know, and then I expect you to have in-depth knowledge about the topic and in-depth analysis of the topic, and give you just what? In 40 minutes, I'm giving you this stuff and expect you to have in-depth, thorough knowledge, and you can read the passage and get the depth of the passage and solve the questions. No, you can't. At the end of the day, CAT may throw anything at us. It may be a topic that I'm not aware of. It could be dense sentence structures, fair enough. It could have rich vocabulary. All right, okay, fine. It could be any of these on any topic, on any dense. It could be complex. It could be straightforward. I don't know. What I know for sure is same. Whatever is a source and whatever is a topic, whatever is the density level, however it is, I would be consistent in saying that I know how to read a passage effectively. I can understand the story, which means I can differentiate the detail and the main ideas. I can understand the broad understanding. I can get the broad understanding, and I will use the broad understanding and answer the questions. You evaluate and look at any of the CAT passages in the recent past, you will see that if you have a broad understanding of the particular passage, you should be able to answer the question. Which means if there are multiple paragraphs, a paragraph may have multiple sentences. All we got to do is gain the skill set of knowing why this paragraph number one exists. One key idea. Not every sentence is equally important. The idea here, idea here, idea here. And if you can connect those ideas together and understand the structure, or the logical structure, or simply say the story, that is good enough to answer the questions. So if you are worried, oh, I have a problem in this, I have a problem in that, I have a problem in that, know for a fact that you would be able to handle whatever the CAT is throwing at you. Start from there. Develop good skills of reading. And that's it. I hope this made sense. If you want me to actually pick up one sort of passage and solve it to you and showcase that you can actually do it, I can do that. But I think it will be no different from solving any passage. So if you understand how to solve one passage, you'll probably learn how to solve any passage. That's all. Now we go and study.